When your celebration of life is prepaid in advance, it becomes a gift from you to your family later, because no one should have to plan for a loss while they're experiencing one. Paying in advance protects your loved ones and gives you the peace of mind you deserve. Let us help you plan every detail with professionalism and compassion. We are your local Dignity Memorial provider. Find us at dignitymemorial.ca.
Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Paranormal Guys Inc. Radio. I am your host, Jason Pepper, on this very hot, humid summer evening here in Toronto. Hope everything is going well for everybody, and my thoughts and prayers go down, especially to the people near the Gulf Coast. They're going to be experiencing some rough weather on top of everything else that they've had to deal with. And let's hope for the best for them. Tonight I got a great show. It's one that was supposed to happen before, but there was a couple of mishaps, one on my part and the other one on my other part. But that's all right, because, you know, things happen, and we're going to get it right. And it's with a great Blog Talk Radio host here as well on the network, and her name is Dr. Rita Louise, and I'd like to bring her in right now if I can. Hello, Doctor. Are you there?
I'm here, Jason. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic today. How about yourself?
Woohoo! We made it.
Awesome. It's an absolute pleasure to speak to you. I know I sort of shot myself in the foot the last time we were supposed to have the show, and I really apologize for that, and I hope tonight we knock it out of the ballpark, to say, you know, and just try and go through as much as we can and have a good time doing it.
Well, that sounds like a plan to me.
Awesome. What did you end up doing today besides, you know, your usual routine? Did you see anything strange, think of anything strange, or encounter anything strange, you know, that may not fit the realm of paranormal?
I see anything strange? Not that I can think of. It was a pretty full day for me. You know, worked all morning, did my show in the afternoon, you know, and then ended up doing a bunch of stuff in the evening, but now I'm here with you, kind of chilling, hanging out, so it was actually a pretty good day, all in all.
Yeah, totally, and we should let everyone know as well that you also are a practicing doctor, you know, alternative medicine and naturopath, and also a medical intuitive. And for those that may not know what that deals with, can you just explain it to the people out there?
Sure. Medical intuition is the ability to use your intuition to help people with health issues, whether they're physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual. And so, you know, because we're kind of on a paranormal show, I think your listeners will get this. I mean, basically, a medical intuitive is a psychic person who talks to you about your health.
Yes. And do you incorporate Reiki and healing hands and, you know, hypnotic therapies and that sort of thing in your practices as well?
I do. I mean, you know, there's doing the assessment as far as saying, okay, this is what I see going on with you, this is where you're stuck, and then I work with energy medicine like the Reiki, some hypnotherapy, yes, as well as herbs and supplements with my clients. The herbs and supplements aren't a big part of my practice, but they are part of my practice. Right.
And do you yourself use these practices, you know, and can you use them on yourself effectively?
Oh, very much so. I mean, when I'm working on myself, usually what I do is let me back up. I mean, one of the things that you can do when you do energy medicine is you can do long-distance healing, remote healing. And when you do a session like that, you basically imagine that you're working on somebody. So if you're doing work on yourself, or when I'm doing work on myself, I imagine that I'm a different person, and I imagine myself like on the table, and I work on myself.
Right.
It's cool.
That is absolutely cool. And can you actually, you know, I know there's cases of mass consciousness creating sickness. Like, for example, I don't know if it was mass hysteria, but there's reported cases during the original Exorcist movie where just the sheer fear created the entire theater to get sick. Now, can you do that in a positive way as well? Can you, control health in a mass amount of people in an entire room?
Well, I don't like the word control,
okay.
Because I believe everybody has free will.
Yes.
And, but I think that, very much so, doing like a group meditation or, a guided imagery with a room full of people can help everyone in the room achieve a state of relaxation, a state of less stress. And when you're in those emotional states, that's when the changes can happen and healing can occur.
Right.
So I definitely agree with that.
The reason why I ask that is because many people have seen them on TV, the TV evangelical productions where they have the said preacher, doing the holy touch, and then all of a sudden, the entire room feels better, or particularly the person can walk type deal. Is that almost a stolen form of what you can do?
Well, I think there's a certain amount of theater, and I'm not, all right, I've never been to one of those kind of services, so I'm totally speaking out of hand here.
Yes.
I'm going to make the assumptions that there's a certain amount of theater that happens, and there is a certain amount of group consciousness that happens within an environment. Mm-hmm. And so I can understand where everybody in the room would have some kind of an experience, especially if there's a lot of singing and a lot of praying or meditating, where everyone is kind of linked together and the energy dynamic in the space is linked that way, that everybody will feed off of each other's energy. And so, I definitely could see that happen.
That's a great point. And let's take it now to a certain phase that seems to be becoming quite popular amongst dieters. I'm not sure if you might have heard anything about this, but they're trying to push now this thing with hormonal diets. And I know that you mentioned that you use a few herbs, but there are particular, supplements you can take that can definitely help people get in better shape and live healthier, especially in the United States and North America with the amount of obesity and diabetes and heart disease. Is this the right direction to go, in your opinion, as a naturopath?
Working with hormonal things like the human growth hormone and stuff like that, is that what you're referring to? Yes,
and like natural herbs such as, tribulus, selenium, that kind of thing, some minerals, and to kind of bring out, I guess it would be the positive hormones that are within us. But could that, be more of a placebo, in your opinion?
I have a very definite opinion about working with hormones.
Yes.
If what you're doing is to support the body's ability to produce or regulate the hormones better, then I'm an advocate. So if you're experiencing adrenal fatigue, if you're giving the body things that support the hormones or support the adrenals so that they're healthy, I agree. Now, if you're giving somebody an adrenal glandular, like an adrenal hormone, a direct hormone, I don't like that personally because our bodies are supposed to self-regulate. And so if you're just giving the body the hormone, you can sometimes create more damage by not allowing the body to do what it needs to do by itself. For a while there was a big thing with people taking DHEA, which is a hormone, and they were like, oh, but you feel so much better. And it's like, but unless you are clinically low, like your body has been identified as being low, then I don't know that I would mess with that body chemistry because the body tries to balance itself out. And if you are artificially inducing a state, what is the body doing to create that balance inside? And over time, what kind of damage can you do because it might make it that the organ that was working okay before might stop working.
Absolutely, great point. And I actually know somebody who was a real proponent of ephedra. And they advocated the use of ephedra like you would not believe. And, it's exactly what you said. They went from a healthy person before taking this to a very sick person while taking it. And they had actual liver damage from that supplement. So, absolutely, great point. This brings me along to my next question, and it's such a hot topic. Are you concerned at all with genetically modified foods?
I am. I mean, you just don't. Well, I'm concerned with when they mess around with stuff in general, and then they don't tell you, because,
Exactly.
It's like, one of the things that I heard on the news is that all, like, bagged lettuce and spinach, that you get at the supermarket is all irradiated,
Yep.
And so that's why it lasts on the shelf so much longer. But, it's like we're human guinea pigs. We don't know what kind of effect it's going to have on us.
Yes, absolutely.
There's no long-term testing being done on it, so it's just kind of a mystery.
Kind of makes you wonder, too, will it offshoot into human genomes and be passed on to next generations? I know that might be absolute science fiction, and off the wall and almost crazy, but within nature, as you know, anything's possible. And could we get some kind of like vegetable man, or something? Like tomato.
Well, I don't know about that, but there is a story that I heard years ago about Pottinger's kitten or Pottinger's cat. And, because cats reproduce fairly quickly, and he had two groups of cats. One group he fed, and this is talking about raw food, but I think people will get the message. One group he fed, like raw fish, raw meat, and unpasteurized milk. And the other group he fed processed food and pasteurized milk. Well, the group that he fed the natural foods to, because cats are carnivores, they, generation after generation after generation, they were healthy, thriving, had long lives, et cetera, et cetera. The group that he fed the processed foods to, after a few generations, the age that they started getting diseases like diabetes, blah, 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 just diseases of cats, started to get less, to a younger age. And after like 4 or 5 generations, 6, I don't recall the exact number of generations of cats, they started having reproduction issues where they couldn't get pregnant, the cats couldn't hold the pregnancy. And it kind of scares me now when you look around at the number of women that have to go to fertility clinics in order to get pregnant.
Absolutely. Absolutely great point. And you can even see this effect taking place right now as we speak in Japan. With all the Americanized food taking precedence over there, the last generation to 2 generations are absolutely unhealthy compared to the ones prior to that. It's from the processed foods, as you just mentioned. So absolutely great.
But Lucky Charms is part of a healthy breakfast. I saw it on the TV the other day. I swear to God.
I know. With all those new marshmallows?
I thought it was just Hot Pockets. And I saw Lucky Charms. Oh, my God.
Well, there's another commercial for another cereal. I mean, the rabbit goes fanatical, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and that tells you right there. It's driving him insane eating this stuff.
But it's just scary that, we're programming our children, that this is something that's good for you when it's not.
That's right. Well, it's a funny thing because kids are so aware, too. I mean, before my son could really say his first words, we were walking by, going for our nightly walk, the Golden Arches, and guess what came out of his mouth? McDonald's. Like, oh, my gosh. So it's imprinted even more so now at a young age to become a consumer of these products, and it's really scary to think.
Oh, I agree. I mean, all right, I'll admit to your listeners, it's like I'm a little bit of a Starbucks junkie, but I'm a tea drinker. I'm not a coffee drinker. I'm a tea drinker, but I like my little tea lattes.
Yep.
And I'll go in there, and there are parents buying their 6, 7, 8-year-old children coffee drinks.
I know.
And I'm like, oh, my God. It's like, why would you want to give a 7-year-old a double shot of espresso?
Exactly. That's like nitroglycerin for children, you know. Like you're jacking them up like no tomorrow.
Well, you know, with the sugar on top. I mean, because usually they get them like a frappuccino, which is like sugar and coffee all mixed in one. And it's like, does your kid bounce off the wall? Or what?
I know. Because I know myself, you know, I'm a bodybuilder, and I weigh 240 pounds. If I drink one of those, I'm bouncing off the wall. So imagine somebody that's 35, 40 pounds. You know, so that thing is like a ticking time bomb, and it's really sad to see. And that's the thing, though. They think it's almost, you know, like a fad or an accessory piece to have their children drink a coffee with them. It's not the right thing to do. You know, absolutely not.
I mean, I don't think so. And then you're just teaching them to drink coffee. So when they become adults, then what?
I know. Yeah, exactly. By the time they're teenagers, caffeine will have no effect on them at all. You know, and that's something to worry about as well. And let's get into some more of the extremely interesting stuff for the listeners out there. Because you mentioned that, you know, it's intuitive medicine is almost a psychic version of it. And do you have a technique that you practice every day, you know, to sort of amplify your ESP or psychic abilities? Or you just think about it?
Embarrassingly, no, not really. I mean, I'm very good at kind of keeping aware of what's going on in my body, you know, where my energy space is. And so if my energy space is feeling unsettled or cluttered, you know, then I'll go and do some work on myself, meditate. You know, I mean, I always do try to give myself a little bit of time just to be with myself, you know, and I guess you could say meditate, you know, but as far as having an in-depth, heavy-duty spiritual practice, I am bad that way.
Well, you had some really big news for yourself recently. You were on the big show, Coast to Coast AM, and that must have been a real treat for you.
It was a bit nerve-wracking, other than it starts at midnight, and I get up really early in the morning, and so that was kind of like, oh, my God, you know, that was try to take a nap and then drink caffeine because I was on for 3 hours. Yeah, it's a little nerve-wracking, you know, hanging out with George.
Yeah, I could imagine. I mean, that's something I hope to, you know, grace his presence or be a guest sometime in the future, somehow, some way, you know, if it ever. But, you know, that whole entire show was really the catalyst and the inspiration for, you know, me getting into it. And I think almost everybody knows about it now or have heard about it somehow and takes a piece of it with them, you know. But actually being on the show, is George that as easy to speak to on the phone as it is, you know, like listening to, or is there some real tension in between commercial breaks?
Well, you don't really get to talk to him during the commercial breaks. You know, you just kind of go into commercial break land. Get to listen to you know, whatever. Go, okay, so I wonder how long this break is going to be. Can I run to the restroom? You know, it's a little bit of a mystery.
How does it compare to your own show? Because, you know, you've had your show for quite a while now, too. And I know when you're on the other side of it, when you are the host, it's more relaxed. You can kind of, you know, take the flow as you want. But did you take anything with you from that experience to what you're doing now?
I think, you know, really kind of digging into a topic. You know, I mean, I like digging into topics. I really like meat, you know, and actually, you know what the biggest thing, just from a radio perspective, was giving my guests, one of the things that I would do on my show, okay, was I would have these, I have these lists of questions, you know, and sometimes they're pretty intense lists of things that I want to ask my guests because I have all these questions. And so I had the bad habit of not necessarily letting them say their whole thing before I'm on to another topic. And so I've kind of cut back and I'd give my guests more of an opportunity to go through and let the show flow as opposed to trying to direct the flow. And that is something that I learned from George, from hanging with George.
That's very good advice, too, because, and that's the toughest thing, too, to kind of readjust your method of delivery, especially, too, if nobody, besides yourself, if you are your own critic, it's tough to get these little, nitpicking sort of corrective methods, and it's absolutely great to hear, advice from your side and other people as well, because we all want to achieve the same thing, and to get the message out there one way or another. Well,
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say, on that sort of flow, speaking of your show, you've had so many top-notch guests. Do you feel nervous at all anymore bringing on these people? Because, you've had the heavy of the heavies, let's put it that way.
Sometimes, like next week, I have John Lear coming on, who is into the Mars anomalies and the moon bases and Area 51, and I guess sometimes my guests, I get a little intimidated by who they are. Like some of them I feel very comfortable with. I feel very comfortable with the material. And then some people, just because of their presence, like I had Edgar Mitchell on the show, who is one of the Apollo astronauts, and I was like, oh my God, and like right now I'm working on trying to get Ram Dass on my show, and I'm just sitting there thinking, I'm not worthy, and I just can't even imagine interviewing this man who has always been an icon in my eyes. And, and like hanging out with him, it's like,
Absolutely, and that's the thing, too. If you go through the research and you build an admiration for these people, and then you get the actual chance to speak to them, it's almost like meeting your sports idol or your music idol or, your politician idol, I guess, whatever your fancy is. You actually get the chance to sit down and have a conversation with them, and it still blows me away, But do you have any paranormal likes and dislikes? Like, what sort of topics really pique your interest, and what's the other ones, that are sort of out there, but, because they're interesting, you cover them, but you really don't feel that they, have as much weight behind them?
Well, because of the work that I do, obviously I'm interested in, like, psychic phenomena, energy work, healing, and putting out information so that people can understand different things that are available to them.
Right.
And so, I try to cover different topics like that. My personal favorite is talking about ancient mysteries.
Yeah.
I really got to... That really floats my boat, talking about ancient Egypt and the ancient alien topics and stuff like that. Ghost hunting and stuff like that. I'm part of a paranormal group, so that's also part of my life. But it's a fun topic to talk about. Probably the area that I'll say I'm the weakest in, or is UFO stuff.
Right.
I'm interested in it, but it,
if you were to actually experience seeing one, or maybe, not, or seeing footage that possibly, was absolutely undeniable, would it still cause that skeptic sort of feeling to come through?
Well, it's not that I'm necessarily skeptical.
Right.
It's just, I don't know. Maybe it's just that I'm not real well versed in it. It's
right.
like I'm a big Discovery Channel person.
Yep.
So like UFO Files and all those shows, I watch those, and but that's about the limit of my knowledge in those areas. And the books that I get from some of the authors, I read those. So I mean, I'm catching up. I'm starting to learn stuff.
Well, yeah, and you made a mentioning of John Lear and Mars and the moon bases. What do you think the possibility of those being true are real?
The moon bases I don't know a whole lot about, but between this week and next week I will become a slight expert because I've seen some of the YouTube stuff, which is really interesting, and so I have a lot of questions. The Mars stuff, based on what I've seen, and I don't know if you are familiar with the work of Zecharia Sitchin.
Yes.
And he talks about how there were, people that lived on Mars, and, and then you see Cyanica, Credonia, the face, where the face is. See, this is, I get myself stuck sometimes. And some of the pictures that they're putting out there, like on YouTube and stuff, it just, to me, validates what he's come up with out of those Sumerian texts.
That's right.
I do believe that there was a presence on Mars.
And that's somebody that you've actually met, too, who committed his life's work to basically uncovering this mystery, Richard C. Hoagland, another fantastic Mars researcher.
Mm-hmm. I met him in person.
Yeah, how was that?
He signed my tinfoil hat.
He looks like an intense person. Like, don't make him mad.
Really. I really didn't have the opportunity to spend much time speaking with him.
Right.
So but it was cool meeting him. I got invited to a party. This was at the 60th annual anniversary of the Roswell crash. And so I got invited to this party, and it was all the, inside people of, the UFO community. So it was really cool.
I can imagine. He was starstruck.
A little bit. Because he was there, and Richard Dolan was there, and Dean Haglund from the X-Files, who is hilarious. I love him. And these other people, and, that I can't think of their names off the top of my head. And I'm just sitting around with all these people, and I don't know hardly anything about UFO. I just had the tinfoil hat. So
yeah, I saw that picture. That's hilarious.
And actually, it's funny that we're talking about that because I just changed my Facebook picture to a picture of me in the tinfoil hat. So, Rita Louise on Facebook if you want to see me in the infamous tinfoil hat.
Well, there's a friend of mine in the chat room tonight, and he asked me one time if I had my tinfoil hat, and I said yes. I actually have the V2, the version 2 of. Mine has a built-in Bluetooth, so it's the upgraded version. And I don't know. It's great, to come across all these people. At any point, though, would it be ever enough? Could you walk away from doing what you're doing, satisfied, or is there a quest for knowledge to just keep going with it?
As far as my practice, or as far as doing the radio show?
Yeah, for your radio show and your personal, research off the side and that sort of thing.
Well, I started reading, books on archaeology. I was one of those kind of really cool, nerdy kids, I guess. I don't know. But I was in, 5th grade doing, science projects on the theory of evolution. And, so I've always had that interest in learning.
Yes.
And the radio show kind of gives me a vehicle to continually learn. How long I'll do it, I don't know, till I'm done.
Yes.
Start at the beginning, go to the end, then stop, as Lewis Carroll would say.
Is there any topics that you might not want to cover? You know, like from the paranormal realm, let's say, because you feel, you know, that there's just no interest or not enough proof to back it up type deal?
The only area, that's a great question, the only area that I personally have a problem with that I don't have people come on, or rarely have people come on, is people that have channeled information. Now, if we're talking about channeling, I'm fine. And if I feel congruent with the information, I maybe will have them come on. But you don't know where it's coming from. You know, I mean, I've heard people on Coast to Coast, well, the Space Command told me blah, 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 and these people told me blah, 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 and it's like, I just have a hard time with it.
Yeah, and you're right. There was a little bit of a debacle that took place. Oh, my God, her name escapes me now, but she claimed that the Federation of Light were coming, I think it was last year, and it was all over the Internet on a specific date. Maybe it was 2 years ago. And I think she was out of Australia, and it never showed up. And everyone that was a supporter instantly turned on her. Oh, my God, I forget her name. It'll come back to me after the show's over. But, no, I totally understand what you mean. And I sort of don't know what to think of that either. You know, and it's one of those coin toss deals, I guess you would say.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you know, and I actually do have a story to back it up.
Yeah.
A number of years ago, and I don't know if you recall these books, there were two books that came out pretty close to each other. One was The Palladian Agenda by Barbara Ann Clow, who has been on my show several times. I love her. I like her material. You know, she's a very open, spiritual woman, great guest. And then there was another book called We Are Galactic Humans, We Are Becoming Galactic Humans by Mary somebody, I don't remember. I couldn't make it through the book. I could not make it through the second book. And it was so fear-based that I started having nightmares. And in the book, she said, you know, the ships are going to come down, and there's going to be 3 days of darkness, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And I started having these nightmares about the ship coming down. There's, you know, I can't find my dog. You know, I can't find my husband. I mean, this is in my dreams. I'm terrified. I had to stop reading the book. All right, I'm not a dreamer, particularly, but they were nightmares. And so I ended up writing an article talking about these two books. It's like, well, you know, where does this information come from? Well, they never landed, obviously, and so that kind of took her whole piece and threw that away. But Jason, I have to tell you, it's like, so I had finished reading those books, and but I was still kind of upset by it. And it was like a month later, and I'm getting ready to go somewhere, and I'm like doing my hair and da-da-da, and the lights in the house went off, and I freaked out. I mean, I just totally freaked out. I'm like, oh, my God, it's the 3 days of darkness. And then I stopped and took a breath, and I realized the stereo was still playing. So.
No, I totally understand. And for me, my thing I don't think I would touch. I mean, although it looks good in the movies, it's the zombie whole craze or phase or whatever. You know, I do believe you can put sort of stupefying spells on people and that kind of thing, but more than that, I'm not sure, you know, and I don't know. I don't know how realistic. I know the term zombie Hollywood is not zombie what it really is, you know.
Right.
Hollywood zombie, they come back to life and they, you know, crave flesh and brains and that sort of thing, but I don't know. To me, it's just something I have a hard time grasping, you know, and I'm not sure. I might offend somebody out there, but that's just my opinion.
And see, I don't necessarily have an issue bringing somebody on to talk about it, to put the information out there. You know, like I had somebody
Yes.
come on and talk about voodoo, you know, which a lot of people are like, voodoo, cross. You know, but I wanted to put the information out there, you know, and so doing a show about, like, vampires or werewolves, you know, not that I would do one every week, but if I saw a book or, you know, somebody that looked like they were trying to put out credible information, I can suspend judgment long enough to give them a platform.
No, absolutely, I agree. No, I'm not downgrading voodoo or hoodoo or you know, Santa Maria or any of that. I'm just saying, like, you know, specifically when you break down a bigger picture and make it into these small little bits, I don't know if there's enough information just to go on a whole zombie quest, let's say, you know, whereas if you look at, as you just mentioned, voodoo as a whole, the entire practice is absolutely, you know, mind-boggling and sort of mysterious, and it could be dark if it's done in certain ways, you know, or it could be very positive depending on the way it's practiced, you know. So again, yeah, you're right. I would never step on anyone's toes. I'm just saying specifically the zombie aspect is something that I don't know if I would really look into it myself, you know. But
I hear what you say.
I saw a very interesting thing on CNN today during Rick Sanchez's broadcast, the early edition. They brought on a contributor. I didn't catch her name, but towards almost the very end of it. But they had video of the RFID implant chip again. It sort of resurfaced, and I wanted to get your take on, as a medical practicer, they're claiming that they're going to be using these devices to hold medical information of the patient. Is that the real story in your opinion, or do you think that there are, you know, sort of dark plans behind it?
Well, you know, if you have something that has, I mean, this is just, you know, science. You know, if you have something that they can take a signal off of you, then what would stop it for them having some kind of scanner and you walk through a doorway and they're not pulling your information? So what they put on the chip, who knows?
Well, I
you know, what they want to pull off the chip, who knows?
Yeah. Even allowing them to implant it, I think I would be like, I'm thinking no. You know.
Well, I've heard that they cause cancer anyway, and that's why, you know, they started them in the animals as the locator chips, and
that's right.
For an animal, you know, I can understand why people would do that, kind of. And it's like, okay, so you're going to put them in all our pets and do the testing on our cats and dogs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then what? You know, where is it going to move to?
Oh, exactly. And that's the thing, you know, you start thinking of, 1980 and Big Brother and NWO and all these other sort of conspiracy theories. But the way they do it, though, is very cute, you have to admit. You know, they make it seem like it's for the better. And it may just be for the better, but you can't just drop something like that. I think you have to, you know, inform everyone all at the same time rather than in bits and pieces and in little, you know, sort of after-school special commercials. You know, that's just my opinion, though.
Well, you know, but I mean, that's the spin, how it's going to help you. I mean, a number of years ago, they were doing the have your child fingerprinted thing, you know, and they had them in the supermarkets and in the schools, and my ex wanted to have his kids fingerprinted. And I looked at him and I said, are you nuts? And he goes, well, what do you mean? You know, what if something happens, you know, blah, 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 blah. I said, and then as they grow older, and I mean, this is going to sound so awful, but, you know, it's true. And if they grow older and they commit a crime, now their fingerprints are on file.
That's right. Well, there's...
Now, I mean, that sounds really terrible, but, you know, it's true.
Yeah, it's very true, and they're actually going to take it to the next step as well. This was also another story on CNN on their morning program of facial scans for the entire American population. You know, and it's all going to go into a database, and everyone's going to be profiled. followed and chipped and, pretty much with their boarding pass or weekend pass to the FEMA camp. It's kind of scary to think about it.
Well, the whole thing is scary.
Yeah, it is. But is it healthy to be afraid all the time and paranoid from a medical perspective?
No, it's awful. Yeah. And the way that we're heading and what's going on the planet these days, it's hard to not be scared.
Right.
Because it's, there's what's going on in our personal lives, which, can be all over the place. It could be good. It could be you're not working. I mean, there's that piece that's going on. Right. But then there's, the oil in the Gulf. We just had the volcano in Iceland. The economy's not doing good. And so people, we don't really know what's going on with the economy, but, they keep telling us it's really bad, and it might be worse than it is. It might not be so bad. You don't know, because there's so much fear being pumped out there in general, but it's awful for the body because it just creates, there's your day-to-day stress, and one of the things that I'm seeing is that people are having this underlying level of stress, and they look around and they go, well, nothing's happened. I haven't had any crises. I'm working. Life should be good. So why am I so stressed or on edge? And it's because, you were talking at the very beginning of the show about this group dynamic that can happen in a room for healing. But I think that one of the things we're experiencing is this kind of group paranoia, and even though we try to get ourselves out of it, we're still being affected by it.
That's right, and it's also, I made this comment to that same friend of mine that it's more or less passive control, these type of things where they keep pumping the fear and the fear products out there. And if you absorb them enough, you're going to be blinded to everything else that's going on around you, and you become numb. And maybe that's the zombie aspect I should look at.
I hear that.
So that might be the connecting point here.
Right. See, you need to do a show on zombies.
How do we change it, though?
I was going to say something, but I forget.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. You might as well.
Well, no, I had a thought, but it just went.
So, how are we going to get out of this funk, though? I mean, with the economy, so-called economy, we don't really need money. If we burned it all and threw it all away and started all over, okay, the powers that be would be absolutely livid, but the rest of us, we could adjust, because as human beings, that's what we do great. We adjust and we move on, and I think the environment, as you said, is one of the key things, but how do we get out of this psychological warfare that is taking place in a healthy way without, antidepressants or anti-anxiety medications? How can we do it naturally?
I mean, I wish I had, like, a pat answer that this is what it would be and this is what you should do. I mean, I think on a personal level, meditating so that you can keep your energy clear, getting energy work done on you, anything to keep you clear is going to help you on a personal level. But I think we're getting to a place, and I'm, we're in a really interesting dynamic because I think a lot of people realize that we need to do something. We need to stand up. We need to take our power back, from the powers that be. But there's no one waving the flag for anybody to follow.
That's right.
And the few people that are, there are the tea parties going on, but they're not unifying all the people.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
One of the things that I thought was very interesting is, with this Gulf thing, is that, reporters have gone down and they've tried to do filming and they've been told you can't film here, go over there, you can't come past this line, you can't go, And what I think is interesting is that the media, with this situation, has become very frustrated with the way things are going. They're constantly being stepped on and told not to talk about it. And, it would be very interesting if the media revolted.
Well,
and just said, and just, broke things open and said, you know what, we're not going to get gagged anymore. We're just going to tell you what we know.
That's right. The only problem with that is a lot of the media is owned by these so-called elite individuals, and they sort of press the button if anybody steps outside the box, let's say, But the interesting thing about that, too, is now they're reporting, especially on all of the American major news networks, that they cannot find any oil whatsoever on the surface of the water. And,
what a lie.
Oh, I know, absolutely. If it's not visible...
And the fish is safe to eat.
Yeah, exactly. Even if it is sunken to the bottom of the seabed there, that's still dangerous in itself. And they can't just make it seem like everything is clearing up on its own, because this is just impossible.
Well, they still don't know if that cap is going to work.
That's right.
And now we have that storm going through there, and it's just, okay, well, let's see if we can make it through that.
Mm-hmm. And my fear is this, because they're drilling two V-shaped relief wells onto the main area. My fear is that they're going to, create an extra amount of internal pressure that the main well is just going to re-blow again. Because I don't know, if that's the case, but that's just my fear, and I hope it doesn't happen, because the Gulf has seen enough, and it needs to go on the other way, and get back to. It'll never be the way it was, but have some peace and quiet for a change, and let's just pray together that it does not happen, Yeah.
I've had a lot of conversations about that whole thing, and one of the things that I think, I wish I was a geologist. You know what? Well, actually, let me say this first. What I think is the most interesting is that PETA, the animal people, the environmental people, why don't you hear anything from them?
Absolutely. Very good point.
There has been no comment from those
That's
people.
right. Where's WWF, where's Greenpeace, where's all these people? Absolutely. And that's the first thing I thought, even after hour one of the spill. Normally you would see them, if there's like a micro contamination, they're there with their boats or their protest. Nothing. Have they been scared off or paid off?
I don't know.
And that's
I don't know.
It's the sort of thing I feel too from this incident. Globally, it's like, okay, yeah, well, it's like you see a minor car accident, you just kind of look at it and you walk away. Unfortunately, it's not a minor car accident. This is going to affect the oceans of the world. It will spread on land too, whether it's in continental U.S. or as far up as Canada, even to the U.K. Because I just had Scott Stevens on, and he made a point that if a storm front picks up some of that oil water, it's going to turn it into rain, and rain comes to land, and then into water pools, and then into drinking water, and then into food supplies, and then et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And mix in the dispersants, we have a major problem here.
Mm-hmm. But one of the things that I've had conversations about, with the depth that they've sent that drill in, so what if there is a giant gas pressure bubble, for lack of area that was so far down there, and it was the rock and the sedimentation that was holding it in place. And like a balloon, they just popped a hole in it.
That's right.
And so it makes me wonder why they're drilling those drills to go actually into the original one, so that they don't create more potential leak spots. Because think about your windshield. If you have a little hole over here and a little hole over there, what's going to happen? It's going to create a crack between the two.
That's right. Well, my theory is it's just a major front. These relief wells are not to shut the well down, because they're going to come up with some story, you know what, we have to keep the oil flowing, because BP is in a major hole right now financially themselves through this, major catastrophe, and they got to make their money back. And what way do they make their money back? With oil. So they're not going to shut it down and cap it off for good. No way. So I see some kind of, scam happening here, and it's going to be bad. It definitely will be a lot worse than it is now. And it's not going to just be for 1 year. It's going to be for decades. And that's the sad part. But,
yeah, it takes a really long time for things like that to go back to how it was.
I wanted to get your thoughts on, because I know they seem to be coming up all over the place, and it's nothing to do with the Gulf whatsoever, but all these spirals and strange objects that are showing up all over the place. There was one that just happened in China, shut down an airport. I wrote about it, and could this be, I know people want to say they're UFOs, including myself, but could it be, the conscious of the universe, especially our planet here, coming into existence through all this negative energy that we were speaking of? Is that a possibility?
So are you talking about, the only spiral that I'm aware of is the one that was over Czechoslovakia, Russia, somewhere.
No. Yeah, Norway.
Somewhere, yeah.
Yeah, it was over Norway.
I don't know enough about it to give you an opinion. Sorry.
No problem. And let's give your website out, because this, again, every show that I'm doing, it gets faster and faster just because, the conversations are just amazing. If we can give out your websites and your radio channels,
sure.
I want people to check it out for sure.
Sure. My primary website is www.soulhealer.com. That's SOULHEALER.com, soulhealer.com. And the radio show is Just Energy Radio, which is on Blog Talk, or you can go to www.justenergyradio.com, and there's over 3 years worth of archives, and it has listings of all the upcoming shows and the upcoming guests. You can sign up for the newsletter so you can keep track of who's coming up every week, et cetera, et cetera.
And what's your upcoming plans for the rest of the summer into the fall?
Actually, I've started writing a new book, but I don't really want to release the details yet because I don't exactly know what it's going to be about totally yet.
No problem.
So that's been, I've been working on it hot and heavy, but I think I know I'm on the right track of some really good stuff.
Right.
And I'm just really in the research stage, and so it hasn't solidified into this is what the book is going to be about because I'm a little all over the place right now.
And if somebody was to approach you to be a speaker at an event, is that something that you would take part of, or are you just extremely busy because your schedule is quite packed as it is?
No, actually, that is one of the things that I do is speak on health and healing, speak on ghosts, whatever, and, at different events. Many times when I'm at an event and they have an exhibit hall, I usually will be there doing private consultations as well.
Well, I can't thank you enough, and I know I chased and harassed you. And I want to apologize for blowing that completely.
No. That was a mutual screw up. So I own my part.
No, I really appreciate it, and this has been a fantastic hour, and I hope you enjoyed it because it was well worth the wait in my opinion. And you're absolutely fantastic to talk to, and I would love to have you back again and to keep this going because you're just so easy to speak to. It's absolutely an honor to have this chance.
Well,
to speak to you.
I would love to, Jason. So you just name the time and the place, and we'll make it happen.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate it, and I hope you have a great night, and I'll talk to you very, very soon.
Okay. Sounds great.
Have a good night.
All right. Good night. Bye, everybody.
What an amazing guest again, and the conversations covered such a wide variety of topics from her perspective as a medical practicer, and just everything in general, an open discussion of thoughts and feelings. And again, I hope I didn't offend anybody out there about my zombie comment. It's not something that I mean to offend anyone. It's just, my personal opinion. I don't know enough of it to find it that interesting, I guess. But anyhow, I hope you can join me for my next show. It's just around the corner, and it's going to be another good one. Before I say that, I'd like to thank everyone in the chat room tonight for joining me tonight. I hope you enjoyed the show. Everyone on Blog Talk Radio that may listen on Archives, thank you as well. All the Facebook group members, new and old, thank you for your support. All the Twitter followers and the YouTube subscribers and mutual friends, thanks for that as well. And MySpace, which I don't really go to as much. And I don't know, something about MySpace. I think it seems to be a trend right now. I keep the page just because it's there, but I should go to it more often. Sorry about that, MySpace. Okay, my next show will be on July 28th with UFO abductee author Henry Edward Webster, a.k.a. Philip Falco. And it should be an interesting one. I hope you can join me then. In the meantime, have yourself a great night, and I will see you on the other side. Take care, everyone.